Scott over at the Prog Corner YouTube channel had me and others on his channel recently, and we ranked the top 10 progressive rock bands of the 21st century. So they had to have started after the year 2000. That ruled out some big ones for me, like Porcupine Tree, like Opeth, and really left one obvious choice, which is Coheed and Cambria at number 1. Because just in terms of embodying the progressive spirit, I don't think there's a band to do it bigger or better in the century so far. The larger-than-life ambition of the concept, the just power of this brand, the naming, the iconography, the merchandise, the comics, the hair. But more importantly to me, the progressive song and album structure, the epic suites, the twisting and turning song structures, and pop melodies nested inside of these twisted riffs and clever composition. They have it all. But if you sat down the average capital P prog listener to hear their last album, for instance, Window of the Waking Mind, I don't know if they'd buy it. Maybe not 70s enough, maybe too poppy. Not that this band could ever fit inside of that prog box, especially coming out of that post-hardcore scene. But there certainly is a general direction that the band's music has turned in the back half of its lifespan. Since those 4 monumental albums that started things off, and I'd even include the Afterman in there because I think it's really the hidden gem of the catalog. These Vaxis albums have been sleeker, they've been more polished, they've been more electronic, more eclectic, with Claudio sounding more inspired than ever to twiddle with his modular synth at 3 a.m. And while I loved that bedroom pop approach on the first solo album from Claudio as the Prizefighter Inferno, it didn't strike me so well on the last album, Vaxis Part 2, The Window of the Waking World, which was very hit or miss for me songwriting-wise. I think it had some of Claudio's most tired melodies since The Color Before the Sun, and some of the very Year of the Black Rainbow-esque, just meandering metal wankery, just chord progressions that didn't land, didn't resolve, didn't punch like a lot of the heavier stuff in the catalog, like a song like Gravity's Union, for example. Plus a more compressed and digital sounding production that made listening more fatiguing than ever. A big step down for me from Vaxis Part 1 was Vaxis Part 2. Just saved by those last 2 tracks, Cut the Cord and then the title track. Which brings me to Vaxis Part 3, The Father of Make Believe. Yeah, definitely one of my favorite bands ever, but my expectations at this stage are kind of tepid, They're just not the same band anymore, and I've come to grips with that. I've accepted it. One thing's definitely carried over from the last album, which is eclecticism. This is a very diverse track list. There's something new at basically every turn. Yesterday's Lost gives us that musical motif. It gives us that brand stamp that we all want, and takes us to earlier chapters of the Amory Wars. But quickly that fades into this very Sufjan Stevens-esque plucky acoustic track. You even got the hushed double vocals. Goodbye Sunshine then unfortunately abandons the tried and true Coheed formula of the second song on the album being this 6-7 minute battle ready banger. Instead, it's kind of this wallpaper hard rock song. Not a lot going on this song for me. Searching for Tomorrow is similarly kind of paint by numbers hard rock, but it has a much better tune at its core. The hook is great. It's just been delving deep into my brain now for weeks. While the band's been trying on all sorts of different sonic suits now for the last couple albums, you gotta admit that these hard rock numbers like Goodbye Sunshine, Searching for Tomorrow, the title track, or the first Continuum track sound a lot like stuff since the Year of the Black Rainbow album. They've got their formulas. Claudio's voice is now much more front and center than it used to be, and the chugging riffs and the anthemic choruses and the noodly little guitar part over the chorus. Even little things like those muffled vocal echoes from Claudio, it's all just right in their pocket. The first song of the Continuum suite, Welcome to Forever, Mr. Nobody. I'm listening to that bridge section. You got that kind of marching guitar part. You got that specific groove. I can't help but feel like I've heard that before, like the band is kind of spinning their wheels compositionally. But the low point for me on the album is actually a part where I think they're trying something new, which is Blindside Sunny. They kind of go full hardcore garage punk on this song. It sounds like the band Turnstile. Yeah, just the shredded vocal on that song is one thing, but I also just feel my ears getting fatigued at this point in the album, very similar to Vaxis 2. And I mean like my physical ears getting fatigued. And I think it's the way this album and the last album were produced feel a lot more compressed to me, feel a lot more in line with these modern metal albums where you're just getting hit with this block of sound. And it's just so consistent that over the course of the album, it just is like too much information. And it just lacks the dynamics in the mix, the softs and the louds of earlier classic metal albums, like from Black Sabbath or even Metallica. You even get that typewriter bass drum sound on this album and the last album, which I feel like really undermines Josh's playing, his feel, his personality on the drums, and I think undermines the whole band's talent, really. You know, it's just that things could sound so much bigger. So yeah, biggest complaints for me on this album are production, for sure, and then at times just kind of stale composition. I'm making it sound like I hate this album, but that is not true at all. I just wanted to get all the negatives, all the critiques out of the way to make this a beautiful ending. And like I said, I accept where the band's at this stage in their career. I'm grateful that they're still creating at such a high rate because this album does offer some fantastic highs. Highs that only Coheed could pull off. Like The Flood, which is the second part of the Continuum suite at the end of the album, a long-time tradition of the band to do these suites. The part towards the end of The Flood, you know, you get that classic Coheed build up to the bridge and then it hits and the vocal harmonies are so good. It's just true sci-fi prog pop and rolls into Tethered Together. I mentioned that the band does these battle-ready anthems, and this one is just muscular. It is the most glorious chorus. It'll get you going. It'll pump you up more than anything since Braveheart. Even if Claudio said that this album actually ends on a very bad note with the bad character Blindside apprehending Vaxis, the main character, which is just so Coheed to nest that kind of darkness inside of this just glorious beauty. Another bright spot on the album, Josh Eppard, the drummer. It cannot be overstated what a big part of Coheed's sound Josh is. I mean, he is just a fantastic drummer. One of my favorites, I think one of the most underrated of just modern metal in general, and his groove, his pocket, his passion is just unmatched. Play the Poet is a track I kind of hated at first. It's got more of those cheese grater vocals from Claudio. It's got him almost rapping, but it's grown on me quite a bit. I really like what they're doing with that one. It's very different. And just a sound, again, that I think only Coheed could pull off. Another experiment that paid off is the song where Coheed goes full war on drugs with Someone Who Can, just destined for the open road in July. Then there's Claudio's knack for a pop hook. There are plenty of them on this album. I can't get One Last Miracle out of my head. Also, I love all the musical motifs that go back to the Afterman albums, which are, like I said, the dark horses of this catalog and really masterpieces. So plenty of positives on Vaxis Part 3. I take the approach with this album that I take what I love and I just forgive the rest because, you know, we're never going to get an In Keeping Secrets again. You just can't recreate an organic moment like that. But in 2025, you still have an enthused Claudio who's more excited about the music than ever, who likes the music more than ever. You've got a band that really like each other and work well together, and you've got new music from Coheed and Cambria. So what more could you want? I'd give this album a solid 8 out of 10, just compared to everything else in this landscape. There's really nothing like it for me. Their mix of pop and post-hardcore and metal, progressive music. You know, in the Coheed catalog, it's in the back half for sure, but I'd nestle it probably right under Vaxis Part 1 and above The Color Before the Sun, Year of the Black Rainbow, Vaxis 2. But what do you think of this album? Let me know in the comments below. I'll put a link down there to a tier list video I did of all of Coheed's albums. I'm also going to put a top 10 Coheed songs video I did a long time ago with my friend Max. So check those out if you could. Please subscribe to the channel and like this video if you haven't yet. And as always, thank you so much for watching.